The night was supposed to be a celebration, a warm evening in late autumn, the kind of night that beckons you to step outside, breathe in the crisp air, and feel alive. She wasn't the same girl who grew up here. There was no response, just the faint creak of the house settling. Rachel frowned, setting her suitcase down by the door and walking deeper into the house. The air smelled stale, as if the house hadn't been lived in for a while. The lights flickered briefly, but she dismissed it as an electrical issue. But as she climbed the stairs, the whisper grew clearer, a hushed voice that seemed to beckon her. She reached the top of the stairs and paused, listening carefully. The voice stopped. It was silent. Now it wasn't her mother's voice. It wasn't a voice she recognized at all. She felt it deep in her bones, the repressive weight of something lurking in the house, waiting for her to acknowledge it. The room was dimly lit by the faint glow of a street lamp outside. Her mother's things were still here, neatly arranged on the dresser, her bed unmade, as if she had just gotten out of it. The air was thick with dust, and the bed smelled faintly of lavender, her mother's favorite scent. The girl who used to run through these rooms, laughing, playing, dreaming. She was a woman now hardened by loss, by time, but there was still something unsettling about being back. It wasn't the memories themselves, but the feeling that something was waiting for her here, something dark and unfathomable. But for Rachel, something felt off the moment she stepped into her childhood home. The darkness around it seemed to pulsate, a living, breathing thing. It was an old letter, yellowed with age, the handwriting familiar but strange. She picked it up, her fingers trembling as she read the words. It had been 5 years since she left, 5 long years, and the house seemed different, colder. A voice, hoarse and broken, whispered in her ear. But as she reached out to touch it, the figure disappeared, melting into the shadows. The voice wasn't just in her ear, it was inside her head. She felt it, the pressure of it, the coldness that seeped into her very being. Her mind screamed to ignore it, to dismiss it as a relic of the past, but something told her this was no accident. The whispering voice, the letter, none of it felt random. Her gaze stopped on one picture, a photo of her and her mother, taken the summer before everything changed. And yet there it was, the shadow. Rachel turned, her heart racing, as the room darkened. She spun around, her vision blurring, and saw it, a face, pale and contorted, eyes black as coal, staring at her through the darkness. The shadows were moving, crawling up the walls like living things, and the whisper was now a deafening scream in her ears. The house had always felt too large for just the two of them after that. She couldn't breathe, before her father's death, before the fire. Her head whipped around, her heart hammering in her chest. She could hear the whispers now louder, clearer, coming from all sides. The house itself seemed to be alive, its very walls groaning and shifting. It was suffocating. A shadow shifted in the darkness. For a moment, she thought it was her mother, but the figure was too tall, too thin. A soft whisper, barely perceptible, coming from upstairs, as if the walls themselves were too full of memories to ever let go. The air was thick, suffocating, and the whispers grew louder, melding into a single voice that echoed in her mind. She pulled it out. "It's still here. We're still here." A message flashed on the screen. Her heart sinking. The shadows were waiting for her. The dim lights, the rustling of wind outside, and the quiet hum of the floorboards beneath her feet created a dissonance in her mind. It wasn't just the house that had changed. It was her, too. Her vision blurred, her pulse pounding in her ears. But when she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the bedroom. She was in the woods, lying on the ground, cold and wet, as if the house had vanished completely. She fought against the grip, but it was no use. The darkness consumed her, filling her lungs, crushing her chest. "Mom!" she called out, her voice breaking the heavy silence. Rachel made her way through the living room, glancing at the old family portraits that lined the walls. "Mom!" She tried again, but her voice echoed in the emptiness. Then she heard it. At first, Rachel thought it was just the wind. It had a way of whispering through the cracks in the house, especially during the colder months. Rachel's heart began to race, her breath quickening, but the silence felt worse. Something was wrong. She walked down the narrow hallway to her mother's bedroom, the door creaking open with a slow groan. But then, something caught Rachel's eye. On the bed, just beyond the pillow, lay a piece of paper. "It is coming for you." It never left. A chill ran down Rachel's spine. Suddenly, Rachel heard a sound, a rustling from the corner of the room. "Mum," she whispered, stepping backward. The figure didn't respond. It only stood there, motionless, as if waiting for her to make the first move. Rachel's mind was racing. This wasn't possible. She had been away for years. Her mother had been gone for months. The house had been abandoned. With a sudden surge of courage, Rachel strode toward it, determined to face whatever was in the room with her. The room felt colder now, as if the temperature had dropped several degrees. You should have stayed away. Rachel spun around, her breath catching in her throat. The whisper grew louder, more insistent. It's too late for you. Too late for everyone. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her. Rachel gasped, her voice trembling. She stumbled backward, her hands shaking as she reached for the doorknob. It wouldn't turn. The door was locked. A cold, clammy hand brushed against her arm. "Mom." The figure didn't answer. It simply smiled, its lips stretching impossibly wide. "It's time to join us," the figure rasped. But there was no sound. The lights flickered once more, and suddenly, the room seemed to close in around her. Rachel reached for her phone, but it was gone. There was no escape. We never left. We've always been here. Rachel screamed. The shadow lunged forward, its hand wrapping around her throat, and then it stopped. For a moment, Rachel lay there, gasping for air, her chest heaving with each painful breath. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. With trembling hands, "You should have never come back." Rachel looked up at the trees. She ran